What's up? So today I want to talk a little bit about something you probably haven't even really thought about, and you're going to be surprised what I'm going to say because So let's just dive into it. So I am pretty much 6'4", 192 and a half to 193 centimeters. That's just well over 6'3" and a half. So that's my credentials as a tall dude. But anyway, I have lifted, some numbers that are maybe going to be impressive to somebody. So my best squat is essentially, 200 kilos for 3 reps, or 440 for 3 reps, or 210 kilos for 1 rep, and that was in like 2017. So I have been training for 20 years. This year is 20 years. So I have some experience too. And my best bench is 140 for 4 reps or 155 for 1 rep. And my best deadlift is 250 kilos for 6 reps, 200 kilos for 15 reps, like 240 for some 8 reps or something like that. And 270 for one. And even that, this camera is kind of heavy, man. So even that is like, it was in 2017, like 254 6 was in 2019. So my point why I'm saying when these numbers happened is these numbers happened and I haven't even really been training for strength. So a lot of people think that I'm training for strength while I'm not. I just like to do squats, bench and deadlift, and naturally through time you will progress. And my point with this is that I have seen that a lot of people have been pretty much okay, let's go a little bit less aggressive here. So when you are taller, obviously, things are a little bit different, because you're taller. People don't really understand time frames. How long does it take for you to achieve something? People think that you can adjust technique in 1 week or something like that, which is crazy. Even me after 20 years, if I'm doing some technique changes, it takes me like for 4 to 6 weeks, to get adjusted. So yeah, just remember that. So this is the first thing, like time frames, you have to understand that. And yes, obviously, when you're taller, it is a little bit different because you're taller. Obviously, it's not the same if you gain 5 kilos of muscle on a frame that is like 5'11 or 5'9, or if you are like 6.6, like if you are 2 meters tall or 1.8 meters tall, it's not the same, So, what I'm trying to say here, having that in mind, just because you're taller doesn't mean that your leverages suck, doesn't mean that you are somehow, at a disadvantage, and it doesn't pretty much mean anything, And those are just your beliefs, and probably these beliefs are, stopping you from achieving what you want to achieve. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the future, about mentality, but this is like key. Just because you think you can do it, even if you're convinced, doesn't mean it's true. Even if you have longer arms compared to your body, it doesn't matter, it doesn't really mean that you're going to suck at bench automatically. There are a lot of people who have, long arms and are elite benchers. So John Huck, he's a relatively short guy. Most of you know who he is. And pretty much he has, long arms compared to his body. And there are millions of examples like this. Just because you're tall doesn't mean you have long arms compared to your body. Yes, when you are taller, torques are different. There's probably more torques on your joint, more stress on your joint, but also you have bigger joints because you're taller. So maybe it cancels this out, maybe it doesn't. But what do you know if you just if you haven't even really trained properly up until now? How do you even know where when you start pushing, if you're taller or not, you're always gonna get injured slightly, maybe not tear something, but you are going to have some aches and pains when you push your body to the limit. Doesn't matter how tall you are, doesn't matter what your leverages are or anything. It's just part of the game. You are going to get injured, something is going to crack if you push consistently. So, and even if you are tall and on top of that you have shitty leverages, also doesn't mean anything. Those are your leverages. Why are you even focusing on that? Like, It's, to me, honestly, it's stupid. If you are getting injured, there is probably a lot more different things that you can look in your training than just leverages. It's not like this black or white thing. Everybody looks at this like black or white thing. It's either this or either that. If I'm getting injured because I have long arms, no, you're getting injured because your training sucks, because basically you don't know what the fuck you're doing. If you're doing too much volume, doesn't matter how great your leverages are, you're gonna get injured. If you're pushing always too hard, no, it doesn't matter how great your leverages are, you're gonna get injured. If you're over 40, probably you're gonna get injured much easier than somebody who is 20. When I was 20, I could do a bunch of shit and I would never get injured. Now it's a little bit different. I'm stronger and I'm older. So yeah, my point is here, just because you're tall doesn't mean pretty much anything. I am a tall guy. There is a bunch of guys who are taller than me who have a lot of success. So yeah, that's pretty much my point here. And if you are keep getting, stuck in this mentality, oh, I'm tall, and you identify yourself as a tall guy and as a guy who is somehow at a disadvantage, you're just pretty much shooting yourself in the foot. I have trained people who were afraid to squat, and they ended up squatting 160 kilos, and yeah, just, and the guy was 6'8". So maybe it's just you. Maybe you just don't know what you're doing, and that's it. That's my whole point. And maybe you should really consider what you believe and what you believe is possible, because there is a lot of tall guys who are big and strong. Peace out, guys. Hopefully this helped. Expect videos like this a little bit more. Bye bye.